to our 53rd episode of In the Trenches, Kroll's weekly cyber threat intelligence briefing. My name is Keith Wojciech, Global Head of Threat Intelligence for Kroll. This week, we are joined by George Glass, Mukesh Nagar, Ryan Hicks, and of course, expert Sarah Becker, all from our cyber threat intelligence team. Today is June 3rd, 2024, and we'll be covering the most recent trends that our intelligence team is witnessing in the trenches. Let's talk news you can use for June 3rd, 2024. So Operation Endgame. So in late May 2024, a joint operation coordinated from Europol's headquarters involving several European countries and the US took place against the dropper strains associated with botnets. The infamous droppers, ICE ID, System BC, Smokeloader, Bumblebee, TrickBot, they all made this target list. The operation had a goal of arresting high-value targets and impacting their criminal infrastructure. The operation resulted in 4 arrests, 100 servers down and or disrupted, and over 2,000 domains now under the control of law enforcement. So a little 2 cents that I'd like to add is some things that we see, especially in with law enforcement and what we're doing here. With this advertisement out, this is, I think, more of a deterrence for new rather than gaining intelligence to take down the major players here. So it's kind of 50-50 in how we view this type of a notification, but it's good in a sense that we're working towards things, but I think it's kind of a little bit misguided where we're announcing individuals and different types of strains where we could probably be doing covert operations and taking down to find out who these bad guys are. So yay, it's good, but also I think there's still more work to be done here with the U.S. government. So the U.S. Justice Department disrupts 911 S5 botnets. An international law enforcement operation led by the U.S. Justice Department disrupted the 911 S5 botnet. It's a vast network of malware-infected residential Windows computers used for sometimes a cyber attack, fraud, and other crimes. The infected computers are nearly 200 different countries. The operation resulted in the arrest of a Chinese national and St. Kitts citizen who allegedly created and operated the botnet. Law enforcement agencies from the U.S., Singapore, Thailand, Germany, they all collaborated to dismantle the botnet, seize some assets, and levy sanctions against the subject and his associates. So next, threat actors' information stealing PyPI packages. This is another one where threat actors are exploiting Stack Overflow by posing as helpful users to distribute malware through malicious PyPI packages. These malicious packages are promoted as legitimate solutions and answer to questions, but do contain hidden commands that download and execute information steal malware on Windows system. Kroll has previously reported on the use of typo squatting PyPI packages to deliver malware as colorblind. Now that's another one here. We're seeing a lot of information steal malware. This is something that's hitting the wave with the phishing and social engineering. This goes hand in hand with all of these information steal malware. So definitely keep an eye on that. Now, finally, I gotta say this group here, this next group of shiny hunters, they keep coming back and keep surprising me. And as much as I don't like bad actors, KTA 223 shiny hunters, I got to say they're ingenious on some of the things they do. Information belonging to Sandler and Ticketmaster impacting millions of users has been put up for sale on the underground forums. While the exact number of compromised accounts is unknown, Shiny Hunters claims to have millions of records from both, including bank details, credit card information, and customer data. The threat group reportedly gained access to the data via Snowflake cloud data stores. Now, Snowflake says investigations are underway and the impacted customers are being informed and notified. This is a developing story, so Kroll continues to monitor the situation closely. Snowflake users should maintain a state of high vigilance. It appears that the criminal groups, aka Swifties, were unable to get their tickets to a Tay concert, and then they took action. So pretty interesting. So if you have any questions or concerns or would like further information on any of these topics, please connect with the Kroll CTI team at cti@kroll.com. That's cti@kroll.com. Now let's get into today's briefing. We're going to cover the following trends our team is concentrating on. George is going to cover some checkpoint vulnerability. Mukesh is going to do some 2 things. One, he's going to talk about a supply chain attack, and looking into Google Ads Malvertising again, which we reported on earlier. And then Malware Spotlight over to Ryan, and then finally, of course, our in-house expert with her Ransomware Roundup, Sarah. So George, I know we released another out-of-band bulletin last week. Love to hear what you have to talk about and what's going on with Checkpoint.
Yeah, thank you, Keith. We investigated a number of breaches regarding the Checkpoint zero-day vulnerability. This vulnerability is tracked as CVE 2024-24919. There's been some confusion over the CVSS score. It's changed a couple of times over the last week or so. It's been given an official rating of 8.6. I think it's important to note that we actually did our own calculations, and we believe it's a 9.1, which would make the severity critical. Of course, it's a zero-day. It's already been exploited in the wild. According to Checkpoint, they've seen in the wild exploitation since around April 30th. That does match up with the timelines of the cases that we've been working on as well. Our assessment is, as I said before, the severity is higher than initially stated. The vulnerability is essentially a file read and path reversal vulnerability, which allows unauthenticated attackers to essentially read any file on the appliance. That does include SSH private keys, etc shadow, pretty much any file on the device. So that means that threat actors can very easily take control and I believe potentially execute code as root as well. One of the most important things I think is to keep updated with a Checkpoint FAQ if you're running this appliance. That's updated very regularly. I think there was an update posted today. Included in that is a list of IP addresses that are associated with attackers, and there's a number of steps to take to harden your environment and remediate any zero-day exploitation. With that, I'll hand back to you, Keith.
Thanks, George. Appreciate the details and the updates on this. So keep an eye out for any additional out of bands or anything else we're going to forward to you guys. So Mukesh, you're going to talk about a couple things today. Threat actors compromise an audiovisual recording software to deploy malware in a supply chain attack. Supply chain is so vulnerable and so opportunistic for these threat actors. I know you're going to talk about that, and then we're going to get into an oldie but a goodie. Using Google ads to send victims to a fake ARC browser to deploy InfoStealer malware. Again, InfoStealer malware, the top trend going on right now. So Mukesh, take it away. Can you dive in some details for us?
Of course, Keith, and thank you. So a critical security incident involving Justice AV Solutions, or JAVS, which are a US-based company that specialize in audiovisual recording software, which Keith mentioned just a moment ago. Actors have successfully been able to execute a supply chain attack on this software, specifically targeting the installer for the JAVS viewer component. Now, the way that the actors have actually compromised the JAVS viewer component is by targeting the setup file for version 8 of the product. Within this installer, a malicious file is named as fffmpeg.exe, which is deployed. Now, this file is really deceptive as it closely resembles a legitimate open source tool called ffmpeg. However, this version has an extra F in its name, and the executable serves as a dropper for the Rust door or gate door malware. Now, once the compromised setup file has been labeled as version 8.3.7. However, looking closely at its copyright and metadata falsely indicates that it's version 8.0.1 of the viewer software. Now, if your organization has utilized this compromised installer, it is crucial to isolate the affected systems and to immediately implement appropriate mitigation measures. Now, given the inconsistency in version numbering, we strongly recommend that any organizations using version 8 or higher to contact the vendor directly to confirm whether the version running on the endpoints and within the environment is compromised. That's everything on the supply chain attack for JAVS Viewer. Now, moving on to Google Ads Malvertising campaign targeting the ARC browser at launch. Now, security researchers over at Malwarebytes have detected a new Google Ads Malvertising campaign that's currently exploiting the recent launch of the ARC web browser for Windows. Threat actors are using this opportunity to trick users into downloading Trojanized installers that infect their systems with the malware. Now, the setup. Now the malicious advertisement on Google search. These ads display legitimate URLs for the Arc browser, but redirects the users to the typo squatting domain sites within the URLs that are similarly to legitimate ones but slightly altered. These clone sites then deliver a Trojanized installer on the hosted on the Mega platform, which then proceeds to download additional malicious payloads onto the victim system. Now, once executed onto the victim system, the installer uses several advanced techniques to carry out its malicious activity, one of which is abusing Mega's API for command and control operations, as well as injecting code into legitimate processes. Now, the analysts have also believed that the final payload for this malvertising campaign is to drop an info stealer. What makes this attack particularly insidious is that the Arc browser gets installed normally, making it very difficult for victims to realize that their system have been compromised. Now, to avoid falling victim of such threats and such campaigns, it's crucial for all users to ensure that they do not click on the promoted or advertised links when they're searching for softwares or going to websites through Google search. Instead, ensure they are going directly to the vendors or the website official site. That's all from me, Keith. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Mukesh. I really appreciate that. Appreciate the updates. So now let's dive into our Malware Chronicles with Ryan. Ryan?
Thanks, Keith. Yes, it's really continuing the theme of the information stealer, looking at RISEPRO this week. So RISEPRO was first identified in 2022 as an information stealing malware. Much like similar malware families, it's distributed primarily through fake cracked software sites, and also through kind of similar Google Ads techniques that Mukesh just mentioned previously. It's capable of stealing the usual range of information, including passwords, cookies, credit card details from browsers, and crypto wallets. And it's typically executed as part of the second stage of a compromise, often following the private loader malware as a service. And that's known to distribute a kind of a wide range of information stealers as well. And there's also a recent campaign that also saw the Gippy malware used to load RISEPRO as well. Quite recently, it's in March this year, 13 GitHub repositories were identified to be hosting RISEPRO, and this is likely just one of the several hosting options that have been used by RISEPRO operators. And during the GitHub hosting, they've all been taken down now, but when they were up, a wide range of legitimate software lures were used as repository names, such as Avast, CCleaner, and Daemon Tools, all the kind of the usual sort of software that we see sort of being faked for these information stealers. During the initial execution, RISEPRO conducts the kind of typical system information checks, as you would expect, including an IP check. And if it detects the victim is in a certain country within the list, the execution process will terminate. And these countries includes the likes of Russia, Moldova, Ukraine, Belarus, among a range of others in that sort of same region. The malware will just terminate itself. And it then checks for the presence of data sources that it will collect from, so making sure that it can collect from kind of browsers and crypto wallets before kind of continuing. Persistence-wise, it's all your common methods. So it uses registry run keys and scheduled tasks on an hourly basis to maintain persistence. But it's also been observed abusing an undocumented Google OAuth endpoint named multi-logon, and that's a way to hijack user sessions and maintain persistent access to Google services. Looking at command and control here, the last point on the right, it adopted custom protocol over TCP in December last year. And just to note, there are a number of correlations in our IoT database between RISEPRO and previously identified indicators. for kind of private loader, redliner, mystic stealer. So kind of a huge correlation between these information stealers. And looking at kind of the detection and mitigations, really highlighting the kind of persistence mechanism, so identifying any suspicious entries in the registry run key, and also kind of identifying any anomalous schedule tasks created. And of course, mitigation-wise, really educating users of the dangers of downloading executables from kind of unknown locations that have not been verified. That's all for me. I'll back to Keith.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ryan. And again, we're just emphasizing this info stealer. It's getting really bad out there. So make sure we're taking a look at that and how your systems are set up, what you got going on, what your defenses are. Thank you very much for that. Now, with info stealer moving into ransomware as a step-by-step process, we're going to move over to ransomware expert Sarah Becker. My apologies. It looks like we have another ransomware group causing issues, a new one. You want to tell us about that, Sarah?
Yeah, of course, Keith. So like he said, we do have another group that we identified. They were first seen in April, but they have a creation of their data leak site, and they're also known as the Dannon hacker group. But the ransomware that they are using within these attacks is Data Broker. They engage in various forms of extortion, but some examples of the extortion types that are used by the group: blackmail, direct extortion, and double extortion. They also operate, like we said, we identified them through their data leak site. They operate that on both a ClearNet and dark web URLs, so they can be identified on both. And at the time, they do have 13 victims claimed on the site. That doesn't mean that there's only 13 victims hit by this group, but this is just what the group has claimed and posted on their data leak site. So while taking a look into them, little is known about the group due to their new stature, and their data leak site is very bare minimum. There's no further offerings on it, such as some groups like to have an About Me section or a contact section, maybe some additional Talks IDs just to converse with the group. This may be during negotiations and whatnot. So we're keeping an eye out just to see if any more information is published or stated about this group to see how they started. So that was just my quick update for the new ransomware group. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Sarah, for the amazing work and definitely the cutting edge intel. So, as always, talk about National Day today. Today is National Repeat Day. For some, this day is an opportunity. For others, it's a bad omen, like repeating a foot massage or a day with a dear friend would make this day extremely special. Now, repeating a root canal or the most embarrassing moment in your life, I would not suggest for this day. But repetition is also a great way to learn new things and often referred to as the mother of all learning. Now, it takes about 1,000 to 30,000 repetitions to be of some type of activity to become second nature. So start practicing on learning how to spell my last name now, and maybe you'll get it there by the end of the year. So I would like to thank everyone who has taken the time to tune in to today's Kroll's weekly cyber threat intelligence briefing. We do hope you found this session informative. If you have any follow-up questions about this briefing or any other questions, please contact the CTI team at cti@kroll.com, cti@kroll.com. Thank you very much for attending. We'll talk to you guys next week.